Wake up early. Start your day right. The secret habit of every great man. Let us begin where God began. Let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let them have dominion. That is not a suggestion. That is a royal decree. That is not poetry, it is purpose. It is your genesis. You were not made to survive. You were made to rule. God never gave man religion. He gave him a kingdom. He never gave man permission to escape the world. He gave him authority to transform it. You, my friend, are not here by accident. You are not a product of evolution. You are not just a member of a church pew. You are a son of the King. You carry inside you the seed of rulership. You are not just human. You are heaven's ambassador on earth. And hear me, your day must begin with that awareness. Because if the enemy can steal your morning, he can steal your mind. If he can delay your awakening, he can hijack your assignment. That is why every great man starts his day early. Because greatness demands preparation, purpose requires order, and destiny waits for no one. When Adam woke up in Eden, he didn't need a motivational quote, he walked into responsibility. Dominion doesn't sleep in. Leadership doesn't hit snooze. Rulers rise early, because they know time is the currency of kings, and the morning is when kings make deposits. Do you know who you are? Or has religion talked you out of your royal identity? Have you traded your authority for comfort, your dominion for doctrine, your assignment for applause? That's the tragedy of our age, a generation of kingdom heirs living like spiritual beggars. Let me ask you, when was the last time you got up before the sun and said, "Lord, I receive my mandate for this day"? When was the last time you didn't just rush out to survive, but rose to strategize? Wake up early, not for hustle, not for ambition, but because you are carrying kingdom responsibility. You were born for dominion. And if you don't wake up with purpose, you will sleepwalk through destiny. The morning belongs to the wise. The early hour is not just about discipline, it's about alignment. God met Abraham in the early morning. Jesus went to pray before daybreak. David said, "Early will I seek you." Why? Because heaven moves early. And if you wait for the world to wake up before you move, you will always be a follower. Let me say this plainly, if you keep following the patterns of culture, you will never fulfill the blueprints of the kingdom. And the first pattern the kingdom breaks is the world's relationship with time. The world wakes up to rush. The kingdom wakes up to rule. That's why your alarm clock is not just a device, it is a call to govern. Every time you ignore it, you delay the influence God has assigned to your life. Let me make it personal. I didn't grow up with privilege. I didn't have status or fame or power. But I had a revelation that my mornings belonged to my mandate. And before I ever stood on a stage, I stood in silence before God while the world slept. I made a habit of rising early not to impress people, but to hear instructions. And now I tell you with confidence, what you do between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. will determine what happens between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Because the early hours shape your spiritual economy. You think you're tired, but what you really are is unfocused. You think you lack motivation, but what you really lack is revelation. You don't need more caffeine, you need clarity. And that clarity is found in the morning when distractions are asleep and heaven is talking. That's the secret habit of every great man. They don't just wake up, they ascend. They don't just pray, they receive strategy. Because prayer is not begging, it's briefing. And the morning is your war room. Every king has one. And you, my friend, were not saved just to attend Sunday service. You were restored to establish culture. You were redeemed to lead. You were called to be a steward of the earth, not just a survivor of the system. And leadership is not just about title, it's about time. Until you manage your morning, You cannot manage your mission. Until you rise with discipline, you will fall with distraction. Until you understand the kingdom within you, you will remain ruled by the world outside you. But I hear God saying even now, wake up, wake up. Chosen one, wake up. Son of the Most High, wake up. Daughter of the Lion, you've been sleeping on your inheritance. You've been quiet about your call. You've been hiding behind prayer meetings but avoiding personal decisions. And God is not impressed with your religious routine. He's waiting for your obedience. Wake up early, start your day right. That is the habit that separates boys from kings, followers from leaders, noisemakers from nation builders. You were never meant to just survive 2025. You were meant to lead in it. And the future will not be shaped by people who sleep through the battle. It will be forged by those who rise before the war begins. You were born for dominion. The kingdom is within you. And this morning, God is not waiting on angels. He's waiting on you. You. Yes, you. Reading these words with sleepy eyes and a weary soul. You. Wondering if your life matters. You. Questioning your calling. Hear me, the battle has already begun, and it's being fought in your discipline, in your decisions, in your daily structure. If Satan cannot destroy you, he will distract you. And the easiest way to distract a king is to delay his awakening. He will whisper, "You need more rest, but what you need is more purpose." He will say, "Just a few more minutes, but what's waiting for you is a mandate." Do not trade destiny for comfort. Do not negotiate with your weakness. Kings rise, leaders lead, and you are being called right now to align your time with your authority. God is not calling you to be busy. He's calling you to be strategic. And strategy starts when the world is still. Strategy starts when your phone is silent. Strategy starts before the sun. That's when real men meet God. That's when real women get downloads from heaven. That's when your leadership is sharpened and your identity reinforced. You don't just wake up early to be productive, you do it because the kingdom moves early. The Holy Spirit is a morning person. And if you keep waiting until the world wakes up, you will always be late to your calling. There is a rhythm to heaven that most people never hear because they're too busy trying to keep up with the noise of earth. But those who wake up early, they don't just hear the rhythm, they begin to move in it. They begin to sync their decisions with divine wisdom. They begin to act, not react. And that, my friend, is the difference between survival and leadership. Surviving waits for instructions. Leading receives instruction in advance. And that instruction comes when the mind is uncluttered, when the soul is still, when the noise of yesterday has not yet crept in. If you think mornings are about coffee and traffic, then you've missed the kingdom pattern. Mornings are about access. Heaven opens gates in the early hours. Favor is released while others sleep. Revelation is given to those who position themselves early. Not because God favors early risers, but because early risers show God they are ready. You want to change your life, change your mornings. You want to impact nations, conquer your alarm clock, because you cannot lead what you do not understand, and understanding begins with alignment. That's why God never called lazy people into leadership. He called shepherds, fishermen, tent makers, people who already understood the price of preparation. And now he's calling you, not just to be busy, but to be ready, not just to go to church, but to carry the kingdom. And the first proof that you are serious about purpose is your discipline with time. Time is the most spiritual commodity you have. It is the one thing God gave you in equal measure with everyone else. And yet what you do with your time reveals what you truly value. You say you love God, but do you meet Him in the morning? You say you want leadership, but have you submitted your schedule to the King? You say you want to walk in authority, but how much of your day is actually governed by heaven's agenda? The truth is, you cannot claim the crown if you keep hitting snooze on your calling. The throne is reserved for those who understand that the early morning is not a convenience, it is a commission. Let me talk to you plainly. Your calendar is a prophetic document. It reveals whether you are stewarding your dominion or squandering it. When I mentor leaders, I don't ask them about their dreams. I ask to see their schedule. Because vision without discipline is an illusion. You don't need more motivation. You need holy routine. And holy routine begins in the morning, with your eyes open, your knees bent, and your spirit tuned to the voice of the King. Wake up early. Start your day right. That's not a self-help mantra, it's a kingdom mandate. Because the early morning is when kings prepare their decrees. It's when builders sketch blueprints. It's when leaders receive downloads that shape the day. And some of you are walking through confusion, not because God is silent, but because you've been sleeping through His whisper. The Holy Spirit doesn't shout, He prompts. And if you keep letting culture dictate your rhythm, you will miss the cues of your assignment. That's why every great man, every kingdom builder has discovered the power of early obedience. Early obedience produces supernatural results. That's why Abraham rose early to sacrifice. That's why Joshua rose early before battle. That's why Jesus rose early to pray. That's why I rise early every day to receive orders. Because I know delayed obedience is disobedience, and the cost of ignoring the morning is greater than you think. Your children's future is in your morning. Your finances are shaped by your morning, your mental clarity, your emotional health, your kingdom impact. All of it is rooted in what you do before the world wakes up. So I challenge you right now, not next week, not when life slows down, not after vacation right now. Make a decision to align your life with kingdom order. You were born for dominion. The kingdom is within you, and the world is waiting for your obedience. Let me tell you something personal. I used to think I was called to preach. But the more I grew in the kingdom, the more I realized I wasn't called to preach. I was called to cultivate a culture, a way of thinking, a way of living. And that culture begins with time, because the culture of the kingdom is rooted in priority. And if you do not prioritize the king's voice, you will be manipulated by every other voice. That's why Satan doesn't have to destroy you, he just needs to exhaust you. If he can fill your life with noise and distractions, you'll never develop the stamina to rule. But when you wake up early, when you meet God first, when you align your heart with heaven before you check your phone, that's when culture shifts. That's when your life stops reacting and starts governing. That's when you stop complaining and start creating. That's when you go from busy to effective. That's the secret habit of every great man. They meet God before they meet problems. They worship before they work. They receive wisdom before they respond to people, because they know leadership is a spiritual function. And if you don't win in the spirit, you won't win in the boardroom, the classroom, or the courtroom. So hear me again. Wake up early. Start your day right. Not because it's easy, but because it's essential. Because your family is counting on your clarity. Your calling is waiting for your consistency. Your purpose is demanding your participation. There are solutions inside you that will never manifest if you don't develop the habit of meeting God in the morning. You want to raise godly children. Let them see you on your knees at 5 a.m. You want to build a business that honors heaven. Start with kingdom strategy at dawn. You want to walk in favor, wisdom, and influence. Then rise with the discipline of a son and the urgency of a king. Stop negotiating with your flesh. Stop bargaining with your purpose. You were not born for compromise. You were born for conquest. You were not designed to coast. You were wired to govern. But governing requires intention. It requires consistency. It requires kingdom habits. And the greatest of all habits is to rise before the world demands you. Because if you do not rule your day will rule you. And kingdom men do not react, they rule. This is what you must understand: your morning is not neutral. It is either submitted to heaven or surrendered to habit. And habits, if not governed, will sabotage purpose. You see, success doesn't begin with talent. It begins with timing. And divine timing is honored when you rise early to align with heaven's calendar. The world trains you to grind, but the kingdom trains you to listen. That is why the secret of every great man is not in how loud he speaks, but in how early he hears. And you cannot hear the deep things of God when your spirit is rushed. You cannot birth vision when your soul is still carrying yesterday's clutter. And many of you, if you're honest, are not failing because of sin, you're failing because of sloth. Not sloth in the obvious ways, but spiritual sloth, that slow leak of urgency, that subtle decay of routine, that casual approach to divine purpose. But hear me now. The kingdom is within you, and the kingdom does not function on chaos. It flows through order, and order begins with discipline. Discipline is the foundation of dominion. Every king is first a servant, and the first person he must serve is his own schedule. If you want to know who will rise in authority, watch who rises in the morning. That's why I don't just teach theology, I teach routine. Because a man with no morning discipline cannot be trusted with afternoon influence. If you can't conquer the alarm clock, you won't conquer systems, industries, or nations. Wake up early. Start your day right. This is not a motivational phrase. It is a military command for kingdom citizens. Because heaven is not casual. The kingdom is a government, and governments run on order. They do not tolerate laziness. And God will not promote people who dishonor time. Remember, you cannot lead what you do not understand. And time is one of the most misunderstood weapons in the life of a believer. Time is not just passing, it is pregnant. It is full of prophetic potential. Every morning you waste is a moment of influence forfeited. Every snooze button you hit is a soul you may never reach, a strategy you may never birth, a breakthrough you may never unlock. And I say this not to shame you, but to awaken you. Because the Holy Spirit does not empower the lazy. He anoints the willing. He partners with the prepared. And preparation begins when you rise. Open your spirit and say, Lord, speak, your servant is awake. You were born for dominion. This means you were created to govern, to strategize, to oversee, not in arrogance but in assignment. And if you refuse to rule your own time, you will never be trusted to rule over greater things. Dominion begins in the small, and the smallest stewardship you've been given is the morning. What do you do with the first hour of your day? That answer will prophesy your next season. Because how you start determines how you finish. And if you keep waiting for breakthrough without changing your behavior, you're not praying, you're procrastinating. Kingdom men do not wait for motivation. They operate by revelation. And when God says, rise, they do not negotiate. Abraham didn't wait to feel inspired. David didn't wait until Goliath took a nap. Nehemiah didn't wait until Jerusalem rebuilt itself. No, they moved. They acted. They responded in faith, and so must you. Stop waiting to feel like a leader. Act like one now. Stop waiting for permission. Heaven already gave you the green light. You keep asking for signs, but God is asking for surrender. Wake up. Get up. Move with urgency. Every great man has a secret place, and every secret place has a sacred time. Yours must be the morning. That is where you sharpen your hearing. That is where you master your emotions. That is where you kill the noise and tune into the voice of the King. Leadership is not the result of charisma. It is the fruit of consistency. And that consistency is built in the dark while others are asleep, while the world is quiet, while you kneel before God and say, "What is today's assignment?" That's where confidence comes from. Not from applause, not from titles, not from money. True confidence is the byproduct of divine clarity. And clarity comes when you rise early and sit under God's counsel. Wake up early. Start your day right. You will never rise above the rhythm of your habits. And some of you have kingdom dreams, but carnal discipline. You are praying for nations, but can't manage an hour. You are asking for expansion, but living in disorder. But the Holy Spirit is calling you to mature, to grow up, to stop acting like a child of religion and start walking like a son of the kingdom. Sons don't beg. Sons build. Sons don't wonder. Sons know. And sons understand the urgency of time. That's why you must master your morning, because mornings are prophetic. What you do when you rise sets the tone for your day, your mind, your leadership, and your life. You think you need new opportunities. What you really need is order. You think you need more connections. What you really need is consistency. And both order and consistency are forged in the early hours when you choose to seek first the kingdom not in theory, but in time. When you stop giving God the leftovers and start giving Him the first, because the first determines the rest. It's not legalism, it's law. Spiritual law, the law of first. And whatever you do first becomes master of everything that follows. That's why I rise early. Not to earn favor, but to walk in alignment. Because when I give God the first hour, the rest of my day submits. And that is how you lead. Not by controlling others, but by governing self. And self-government begins when the flesh is still groggy, when the mind is not yet distracted, when the spirit is wide awake. That's when you choose. Will I serve purpose or pleasure? Will I walk in vision or in vagueness? Will I stand with kings or blend in with the crowd? And let me tell you, every great man has wrestled with this. But the difference between the average and the excellent is what they do in that moment of wrestling. The excellent man doesn't rely on motivation, he relies on habit. And habit is a holy thing. It is not just repetition, it is rhythm. It is the dance of obedience. You were made for that rhythm. You were made to flow in the cadence of heaven. But that cadence starts with a choice. Wake up early. Start your day right. This is the day the Lord has made, but you must decide what to do with it. You can wander in confusion or walk in revelation. You can repeat your past or release your purpose. You can blame your circumstances or build your kingdom. But you must choose, because time is not waiting. Purpose is not pausing. And heaven is not silent. It is speaking, even now, even as you read this. Will you answer the call? Will you rise from the bed of excuses? Will you silence the lullaby of procrastination? Will you resist the temptation to delay, to postpone, to say one day when God is saying, today? Because the longer you wait to master your morning, the more your influence begins to decay. I am not preaching this to impress you. I am preaching this to awaken you. I know what it is to feel the pull of comfort. I know what it is to feel the war between flesh and purpose. But I also know what happens when a man says, no more. No more compromise. No more delay. No more living beneath the call of God. That's when you see mountains move. That's when you see doors open. That's when you realize the power was never out there. It was always inside. The kingdom is within you. And that kingdom must not lie dormant. It must rise. It must speak. It must rule. But to rule, you must be ready. And to be ready, you must rise early. Every morning is a seed. What you sow in that seed determines the fruit of your influence. Every great man I've ever met regardless of culture, background, profession, has this one habit in common: they mastered their morning. They do not wait to be led. They lead themselves. They do not hope for clarity. They create it through discipline. They do not complain about time. They command it through alignment. And that is what you are being invited into right now. Not a trend, not a New Year's resolution, a lifestyle, a culture, a kingdom routine. And routines are holy. They are altars in time. They are invisible structures that make visible impact. I challenge you now, do not treat this message like content. Treat it like a commission. The Holy Spirit is not entertaining you. He is enlisting you. For there is a war for your attention, a war for your time, a war for your discipline. And the winner of that war will decide your legacy. Do not let the enemy keep you asleep while your purpose rots in potential. Wake up early. Start your day right. Say it until your spirit trembles. Say it until your alarm clock bows. Say it until your schedule submits. This is the habit of kings. This is the rhythm of rulers. This is the discipline of destiny. And it's not just about waking up, it's about waking up on purpose, with direction, with focus, with clarity. Because leaders do not live by default, they live by design. And design requires intention. If you keep living by impulse, you will keep repeating cycles. But if you wake up with intention, you will begin to establish culture. And once you establish culture, your influence multiplies. Your voice amplifies. Your decisions bear weight. And that's when the kingdom expands through you, not just in pulpits, but in boardrooms, in classrooms, in living rooms, in every room where your feet walk. But it starts with one decision, one sacred hour, one consistent rhythm. It starts with what you do at 5 a.m. It starts with the choice to rise, to listen, to plan, to pray, to prepare. That's when heaven opens. That's when strategy flows. That's when the lion wakes up inside you. Don't wait until crisis hits to seek wisdom. Don't wait until doors close to develop vision. Don't wait until people follow you to learn how to lead. Build before the storm. Train before the war. Lead when no one is watching. Govern when no one is clapping. That's the secret habit of every great man. They do in private what others only perform in public. They live in rhythm with a realm most people ignore. They wake up early. They start their day right. And because of that, their life carries weight. Their words carry fire. Their presence shifts atmospheres. Their vision pierces darkness. And that, my friend, is your inheritance. You were not saved to be safe. You were saved to be strategic. You were not called to be religious. You were called to be royal. And royalty doesn't sleep through purpose. Royalty rises. You don't need another conference. You need a calendar. You don't need more prophecy. You need a plan. You don't need more affirmation. You need action. And action begins in the morning, not with performance, but with posture. Not with hurry, but with humility. When you rise and say, "Here I am, Lord," your son is listening. Your daughter is ready. Your servant is alert. Your ambassador is present. That's when destiny accelerates. That's when identity ignites. That's when the atmosphere around your life begins to change. Because God does not anoint the casual, He anoints the consecrated. And consecration begins with how you treat your time, how you treat your schedule, how you treat your morning. This is your wake-up call. This is your trumpet blast. This is heaven shouting into your soul. Rise, lead, build, govern. You've been circling the same mountain. You've been praying for new results while living in old patterns. But that ends today. Today is the line in the sand. Today is the pivot point. Today is when you stop living like a survivor and start walking like a steward. Steward of your time. Steward of your purpose. Steward of your family. Steward of your kingdom assignment. And it all begins at sunrise. It all begins with your decision to prioritize the voice of God above the voice of culture, the voice of truth above the voice of trends, the voice of destiny above the voice of delay. I urge you now, commit. Don't just be stirred, be structured. Don't just be inspired, be immovable. Set your alarm not just to wake your body, but to awaken your spirit. Create a space where heaven meets earth every morning. Make your living room a war room. Make your kitchen table a throne room. Make your quiet time a revolutionary moment. And don't do it for applause. Do it for alignment. Do it because you are not ordinary. Do it because you are an agent of the kingdom. Do it because the kingdom is within you. And the world is not waiting on another celebrity. The world is groaning for the sons and daughters of God to be revealed. So be revealed. Step into the light of responsibility. Stop hiding in potential. Stop shrinking in fear. Stop rehearsing defeat. And wake up with fire. Wake up with purpose. Wake up with dominion. For the kingdom is not a theory, it is a lifestyle. And that lifestyle starts in the dark, before the sun rises, when no one is watching. That's where the great ones are forged. That's where the wise ones are trained. That's where the kingdom leaders are born. Not in noise, but in silence. Not in stages, but in solitude. Not in applause, but in alignment. This is your moment. This is your hour. This is your morning of destiny. And the Spirit of God is commissioning you, even now. Not just to hear this word, but to embody it, to act on it, to live it out, to build systems around it, to raise others in it, to be an example of it. You don't need more ideas. You need implementation. You don't need another motivation. You need mobilization. And so I close with this final charge: wake up early, start your day right. That's how kings are made. That's how nations are shifted. That's how cultures are redeemed. That's how the kingdom advances. Let it be said of you that you did not sleep through your call, that you did not miss your window, that you did not forfeit your mandate. Let it be said of you that you rose, that you led, that you governed, that you fulfilled your assignment, that you lived as a son of the kingdom, and that the world was never the same because you learned the secret habit of every great man: